Hey guys, I'm so glad you're here as we continue this series, Start the Party. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the idea that sometimes it takes a party to experience life that Jesus promised. We're defining a party as any effort to celebrate, serve, or make a big deal out of each other in a way that adds value to life. And we want to invite you to be a party starter, someone who is preparing the space for the party and making space for others to join in. See, when we start the party, we get to experience the full life God promises. A life with the volume turned all the way up. A life that is more than you expected. A life that has more adventure, more excitement, more purpose. Who wouldn't want that? Growing up, I looked up to my cousin and I thought he was a real party starter. He was great at football and seemed at the time he was good with girls. He was confident, happy to get up in front of everyone and speak. And everyone looked up to him even though he was shorter than everyone else. And I thought, if I could be a little bit more like him, then God could use me. And one thing we see all around us is this power of influence. And maybe you've seen it too when the random kid in your youth group goes viral for falling down the stairs on his bike. People are watching the lads' TikToks in the States, or maybe your mate became a meme. Just your average everyday person, and then all of a sudden you watch as this person gains thousands, if not millions of followers on social media. And suddenly their opinions, decisions and influence seem to really matter. Then there's the influence in the comment section. You have the pinned comments getting thousands of likes, the troll comments getting hundreds of replies, and then some comments just being repeated over and over again. And suddenly, user 3842910 has influence too. And on top of that, we have the power of liking a post, comment or reply. And we aren't even the ones necessarily saying anything, but with just 2 taps on a screen, we have influence. But why is it that with all this power at our fingertips, it can feel like we don't have what it takes to be a party starter? Maybe you don't think you have enough influence on the world around you. So why should you care about starting a party for others if not that many people are paying attention to you? Why should you worry about your choices, your behaviour, if you don't have a ton of people following your example? Maybe you just never thought much about your influence. And if you're honest, you aren't thinking a lot about the way you live or how your life might impact others. You've got enough on your plate and you're just trying to get by. Or maybe you see that you have a lot of influence, but it feels way too high pressure to know what you to do or what to say, or so you decide there's no point in trying in the first place. Like I said, I get it. I struggle to believe I have what it takes to be a party starter. That my words, my actions and my behaviour and my choices could have any impact on the world around me at all. But what if we're wrong about that? What if we do have influence? What if we could use our teenage years to make a difference in the life of someone else? What if having influence isn't really about us at all? What if you really do have what it takes to be a party starter? Today we're going to look at something Jesus said that's connected to this idea. It's found in the book of Matthew, which was written by one of Jesus' friends named, Matthew. And he was one of the 12 closest friends and followers of Jesus. And this means that Matthew was with Jesus, lived alongside him and saw Jesus' influence firsthand. Today we're going to look at part of one of the most famous talks Jesus ever gave during his time on earth. It's known as the Sermon on the Mount, because Jesus was teaching to his close followers plus a crowd that had gathered on the mountainside. And I think the people came to hear what Jesus had to say because at the time, so much of what he was saying wasn't what they expected to hear. See, even though Jesus would often teach about familiar ideas, he would often take them up to a next level by presenting them in ways that were unexpected. And Jesus changed the game by showing people back then and us today what it really means to live a life that honours God. So let's take a look at some of what Jesus shared with the people on the mountain that day about what it means to start the party with their lives and their faith. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Right away, Jesus used a pretty obvious example. He is making the point that a city built on a hill would be really easily seen by other people. And Jesus went on to expand this idea by bringing up a lamp as a symbol to represent this idea. People didn't have electricity back then, so when the sun would go down, darkness would take over if they didn't have lamps to light their homes. So wouldn't it be strange to cover that lamp once it was lit, then no one could see the light? Let's take a look at what Jesus said next. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Now, Jesus tells us how to shine. Jesus has already said we're the light of the world. Like those cities on a hill or those lamps in a dark room, we're the ones who get to shine the light of God's love into the world. Okay, for just a second, let me talk to those of us who consider ourselves Jesus followers. How do we shine that light? With the way we live our lives. With the way we use our words and our actions and our gifts and our influence for good. Because when we do that, it points to something bigger than ourselves, and it points to God's love at work in the world. When we realise that our actions, our words and our behaviours can influence other people and point them to God, it changes the way we see ourselves and it changes the way we live. In other words, a party starter lives like others are watching. If you're here and you're unsure what you think about all this God, church, Jesus and Bible stuff, that's all good. Just know that if you've always assumed Christians were the people who are just supposed to be good and follow a bunch of rules, that's not what Jesus is asking you to do. He simply asks us to shine a light and start the party. For those of you who are Christians, this may feel like a pressure. If we're supposed to be a light to the world and make sure we're living like others are watching what we do and say, does that mean that we can't make a mistake? That we've just got to get it right all of the time? Of course not. Like we're not going to get it right all of the time, but that's not what it's about to be a party starter. Like God's Spirit is already at work in the world around us. And in fact, that's why we often ask the question, where did you see God today? It's a way to help us open our eyes to see the goodness and the love of God already in the world. And being a party starter who shines light into the world really just means that you use what you have to help others see the work that God's Spirit is already doing. You're shining a light not on your own good works, but on the good that God is already doing. And here's what I love about this. No matter our insecurities, no matter our doubts, no matter how much influence we think we have or don't have, Jesus reminds us we have a purpose. And that purpose is to shine a light on all what God is doing in our lives and in the world around us. To use our lives and our talents and our abilities to point others to God. To truly live like other people are watching our example. So how can we do that? How can you live in a way that shines a light to the world around you? Here's how I'd encourage you to think about it. First, ask yourself this question. Where do I have influence? Where do you spend a lot of your time? Like, who are you with a regular basis? Who might be looking up to you? Who's listening to what you have to say? Like, this could be someone in your family. It could be someone here at youth, or maybe on social media, or in school, or one of your friends. And I know some of you may not think you have much influence at all, but I promise, even if it's just one person, that's huge. You have what it takes to be a party starter, and that means you have influence to point others to God. Then ask yourself this: how can I be a light? What would it look like to use the influence you have to be a light? How can you use your words, your actions, your choices, your time and your gifts to shine a light in this world? You don't have to be perfect. And small, simple steps can make a big difference. Remember, a party starter lives like others are watching. A party starter uses their influence to shine a light on God's work in the world. And that's what I hope all of us will choose to do this week.